Hey everyone, I'm Christine Gritman here with Social. I do this show every single week where I talk to one of my smart friends about social media, digital marketing, small business, all that jazz. And I've been doing monthly themes this year. So May 2020 is actually Mental Health Month. So everyone I'm talking to this month is about kind of that intersection between mental health and business and social media, all these things that we've got here in this crazy stew. And I've got Amy Airom here. Yay! Hey, Amy!
Yay! Hello. I'm so excited.
Hello! Tell the good folks at home what you do.
Hi, my name is Amy Airom. I'm the founder of Capitalize Social Media, and I help life and business coaches gain visibility and increase impact using organic Facebook and marketing tactics that work.
I love that. And organic can still work for all you
It does, it does,
naysayers.
it does.
Organic totally
Exactly.
works. It's about conversations. It's about keeping it human. That's how organic works. But to that end, coaches, especially the type of coaches that you work with, especially like life coaches, business coaches too, part of the job is having some degree of empathy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't just be all, I mean, I'm sure there are some coaches that are like all business all the time, but for the most part, people who get into coaching do it because they care to some degree, and they have the ability to an effective coach can relate to you and can kind of meet you where you are and help you to that next level. But this can be a little tricky in a time like now where people are bugging out. So I'd like, first of all, to hear from you sort of what you've been hearing from the people you work with in terms of how things have shifted in terms of what's expected of them or what they have to do or the lines they have to draw. Like, how are things shifting for coaches right now?
Definitely. That's a really good question. Yeah, it's definitely, like you said, with coaching and being able to connect with their audience. That's what's such a benefit to social is the coaching, and especially life coaching, any type of coaching is very personal. So being able to connect with their audience on social, have them get to know them before, they have any, other connections with them is really a value for them to build that trust and that relationship. So, before that, there is a lot of, content marketing where they're, just building value and like you, like doing themes and talking about how, their business or their life is affected, during different months and different times. And then now this happens and a lot of them have really shifted. Again, going back to what you said about empathy, like they have to be empathetic in situations and it can't be ignored. Like there is things that are impacting every different aspect. So I'm really proud of the clients that I work with that I've really been able to shift quickly and, they're all online already. So that's a huge advantage for them to be able to just pivot their message and really help people where they're at and what they need to be supported by. And there's just so many different aspects. And I love how you're talking, about mindset this month because it's just so important, especially right now, to really be in the right mindset to handle all these things. And having a coach that can really understand you and that you can really connect with is so vital in this time.
You mentioned pivoting. In what ways have they had to pivot right now?
It's a good question. So one of my clients, she, does a lot of transformation, like breakthrough coaching, and that happens in an actual in-person, like it has to happen in an in-person environment. And, that's not happening at all. And, as much as we would like to emulate that experience, that specific experience really has to be done in person. I mean, after 3 months of us working together, she actually had a client, a friend of someone that had been watching her Facebook Live videos fly all the way across the country from Atlanta to San Diego to be coached by her.
Wow.
So yeah, it's definitely something they find this value in. That, like, it really is powerful when it's in person. So she can't do that right now. So what she's done is she's shifted to just supporting and doing that like regular, coaching with, I was like not timeline coaching, but it's more of like the interactive coaching, right? Like we're going to talk and we're going to check in and we're going to talk some more and check in, as opposed to the breakthrough where it's like, it happens, within like a day or two. So she's shifted that because she's found that that's where her clients are at right now. They need that support. And so she's been able to connect with them at that level, doing like webinars and, just being able to kind of pivot back to that coaching that's really needed right now.
Yeah, the ability to provide support and to provide that type of support. I mean, there's an energy to in-person support that is difficult to transfer to the online experience. So I'm sure that that's been part of that pivot there.
Right.
And to your point, social media, you said that social media, it's good for people to get a sense of who you are, personally as a coach, because if you're a coach, you want to connect with people on a human level. But I'm sure, it's tricky to draw those lines, though, because if you're helping someone in a professional capacity, there's sort of a line there in terms of the boundaries. Do you help them with setting those boundaries, or is that not really part of your work together?
Definitely it is. People come to me, coaches, they come to me and go, I know I need to be on social media and I don't know, just like you, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to go. And we develop a strategy together to infiltrate that connection aspect into their strategy to make sure they're able to connect. And that's what level that they do it. They don't have to share everything. Like, that's what's nice about it, is you can share as much as little as you want, but it's important to share that personal aspect for people to get to know you, like something, about your family or something where they can get to know you. And that could be a point of connection for them to relate to as well.
Yeah. So a lot of people are certainly feeling very overwhelmed right now. I've got my friend Linda here saying, speaking of mindset, this week I've had an overwhelming sense of overwhelm. And a lot of people are dealing with that right now. So coaches, I imagine, yes, you want to be human, but of course, coaches are a hand up, right?
Right.
So you can't be a coach being like, I'm falling apart. So So how do people balance that? This kind of relates, I don't know if you saw my show last week with Chris Brogan, but we were talking very much about that balance. I called it the hot mess to robot scale, where you want to be human and vulnerable and meet people where they are, because if you're pretending everything's hunky-dory, people can't relate to you right now. But at the same time, if you're this pillar of stability that people want their coaches to be to some level, if someone is specifically supposed to be helping you, you sort of want to be that beacon to some degree. So how have you seen people negotiating this successfully, and or how have you seen people struggling with negotiating this balance between acknowledging the truth of what we're all facing right now while also being that beacon?
Definitely. Yeah, that's a really good point, because, you want to be able to be relatable. Like, you don't want to just be like, oh, this person has no problems, they're totally fine. And then they're like,
who's fine right now?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really damn close. Yeah. Like, I am a really lucky person right now, and I'm not fine. I'm a mess, even though I have everything. Everything's, So.
Yeah, I know. And everyone experiences different levels, and it's like a roller coaster. Some days it's good, and some bad. And I think what I've seen, and it's been successful, is they relate what they've, the pillar that we'll call them, like how well that they've been able to navigate this experience to what they've experienced in the past and how they overcame that. And that's why they're doing so well now. So it's like meeting them where they're at. Like, you could be back there. This is where I was, and this is what I went through, and this is what I learned, and this is why I am here right now. So giving a little bit of a backstory as to, we're still going to have our days, and it's okay. And, having that empathy, like we talked about before, but being able to show, like, this is, like a success story of their own. This is, I can totally understand, and you can align that way, because there's no, everybody's not fine. If they can pretend, but there's, it's just a matter of, like we talked about, like, how the amount of what they share, so not everyone wants to share all of it. Some will share to a certain extent. So,
but I like that you, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to be saying, I'm not coping well, communicating this sense of, I'm not coping well because I'm better than you or because I'm not going through this. I'm coping well because I've been through crap and learned these coping mechanisms, which I am now passing along to you. Learn from my past experience. Exactly.
And that's what I love about coaches, because the ones that I've been in contact with, and I'm going to stretch and say probably about 80 to 90% of them are coaches, because they've been through stuff before that's helped them get to the point where they're like, I've mastered this. Now I want to help you. And that's what I love so much about coaching, because they're just wanting to help and help and help and help as much as they can with this, experience that they've already gone through it. And I'm of the mindset that, why reinvent the wheel? Like, I love having a coach, because this person's already done that. I'm going to let them help me get there faster and not figure out how to do it on my own. That's where I like to read. I'm not reading a book right now, but I usually read a book, because that's the fastest way to really get all this information. But having a coach to be able to kind of keep you on the right path is really, really vital.
I really like that. This is a little bit of a kind of side quest here, but I'm curious how you decided to specialize, how you became a social media coach for coaches. Like, how did this happen?
That's cool. That's a good question. It's a kind of a long story, so I'll try to keep it short. But when I had my son, he's 6 now. I quit my corporate job. I was at Verizon for 15 years in retail management, and I was like, I'm going to stay at home, which I had the opportunity to, which is great. After 6 months, I was like, oh, this is not quite what I thought it was going to be. So I want to work. And at the time, not knowing what we're experiencing now, everybody working from home, I had a really hard time looking for work that I could do from home. Like, I couldn't figure, like, there was not very many opportunities. So I was like,
if there isn't a box, you construct a box.
That's exactly what I did. So I started my own website, my own blog, and I loved coupons and saving money. So I did that for a couple of years.
Cool.
And so it was super fun. I was teaching people, and I was learning how to, taught myself how to use WordPress, and then Facebook and Instagram started getting big. So I started doing those techniques to bring them into my blog. And then I really liked the social. So after like 2.5, 3 years, I just went full into social, and I was like, I need to find businesses that need help. And all of a sudden, all these businesses needed help. And I started kind of building my success, client success stories from there. But just in the last year, I really narrowed down to coaches, because, as you know, there's a lot of social media experts in the world, and in any industry, there's a lot, and you have to be able to differentiate yourself. So I was just thinking, like, what clients do I like the work or their content the most? Like, how could I narrow this? And I started realizing that a lot of my clients were coaches. And I love that because I love to learn, and I love that they love to teach so much of what their experience is. So just in the last, like I said, last 8-9 months, really solid, I help life and business coaches, and that's what I do. And it's kind of two separate niches, really, because, it's a B2C and a B2B, but it really works. It's been really neat. And I get to learn a lot from my clients.
Yeah, I get to
teach them a lot. It's really, really fun.
That's a nice bonus of that. That's fantastic. So getting back to the positivity thing, the ability to sort of be above the muck that we're all being dragged down in, so that you can be a hand up without, just putting on a happy face and pretending this isn't happening. I mean, Linda here is saying, I'm healthy, but not fine. I'm coping at being at home because I've embraced being safe at home, but I seem to be focusing on the limitations. A lot of people are feeling that now. So what are some things that, so you mentioned the idea of positivity and positive mindset. So you certainly are learning from lots of coaches and embracing this. So what are some, positive thinking techniques that you're seeing, or mantras or anything that you're seeing out there right now that is helpful to people in this moment that we're all going through?
Definitely. Empathy first and foremost, I think, because people are going through things and everyone goes through them differently. And it's just a matter of, like, I'm with you, I hear you. This is, just being able to just empathize and align with them. I think when someone's going through something tough, they're all on their own journey for sure. My personal mantra, and I've just developed this over the last few months, especially right around social media marketing world, is look for the good and you will find it, and then some. And that is what it's all about, what you're focusing on. Just like Linda said, she knows that there's good, but then she finds herself looking at the things that aren't so good. But really what it is, it's all, and this is the cool part, it's all within your control. Like, you can decide whether you're going to look at the good things or you're going to look at the bad things. And, of course, there is not all good things. So there is going to be some bad things, and you have to take the time to deal with that and take care of that and process it. Like, you're not ignoring it. You're just saying it's there, and this is something I have to deal with, but then being able to put yourself back in the positive mindset and being able to go, okay, well, there is the good things. Like, I get to spend so much time with my family. We get to have lunch and dinner and breakfast and all this. So we get to be able to, do all these things that, maybe weren't possible before, but nonetheless, like, we're taking that and being grateful for what it is. And I see a positive mindset as something that can spiral upward. And I can see, just mindset in general. You can spiral upward to a positive. You can just as easily spiral downward into a negative. And it's just a matter of being able to see kind of when you're sliding down, and then being able to kind of center and then take it back up. That's going to just changes the complete trajectory of your life. Being able to have that positive mindset and being able to get yourself continuing in that way.
And I want to clarify something you said, because I think it's really important to clarify. You said it's all within your control. What you're saying is not, and I just want to clarify for anyone who heard that and had a reaction, you're not saying that the situation is entirely within your control. You're saying your mindset and what you choose to focus on is within your control. And, what we look at is what we go towards.
Yeah.
So you can't, cure COVID with a positive mindset, but what you can do is focus on the fact that you're healthy now and what can you do with that. You can't cure the fact that you're stuck in your house with a positive mindset, but you can change your experience of being stuck in your house by being grateful for the home that you have. And that really can change how much motivation you feel to actually go and do things.
Yes. And once you start thinking of, okay, this is good, then things just happen. You start seeing other things that are good, and that it just completely changes. So, it's definitely, that mindset is just, controlling how you think about things. I've always, a long time ago, heard of this saying that if you can't control something, change the way you think about it.
Yeah.
And that's, all we can do, right? If we can't have any control of the situation, then we can just think about it in a different way.
Yeah, and it doesn't make it go away. It just, changes our experience of it, which is huge. Deanna says always. She's a great example of positivity. In fact, I just commented, she just posted about something about positivity yesterday on Instagram, about owning your self-esteem and owning who you are and being, spreading self-esteem to other people, like it's sunshine. I said that she was sunshine, because she is.
Aww, that's a good term.
So to your point about how, your experience of things changes with the positive mindset, but it can be tricky to, find the good when we're mucked up in the bad. Another thing that can be tricky to do is deal with things like our social media. So if we're sort of, in this sort of healing, cocooning mindset of, I don't know what to do, I'll try to see the good, but it's hard to know what I can do. We're feeling very powerless right now. You mentioned, and I actually don't know anything about this, so I'm very intrigued by this. You mentioned that you have a method for social media. I think the acronym was CARE.
Yeah, the CARE method. It is something that I've developed over the time that I've worked in social media in the last 3 years specifically. This is how I help my clients develop their strategy, is having all these different types of content. But I figured out as I'm just beginning to start teaching this, I'm I need to kind of package it to something that makes sense. So the CARE method, it's an acronym, and it stands for the 4 different types of content that will simplify your social media strategy. So the first one is C for care is connect. That is, like we talked about, how do you add in, a personal touch to your content? That is the connection point. So like I said, little or as much as you want, but definitely important that you add a connection point to your social media content. The A is for authority. So, making sure that you're establishing your authority, you're showing that you're teaching your expertise, that you're being highlighted on different aspects of maybe blogs or videos or whatever you're sharing,
live stream,
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So that you're sharing your expertise and that you're known as the authority in your field. R is for resource. So you're sharing content that is a resource to your ideal client. So that is information that isn't necessarily about what you do, but it's related to knowing who your ideal client is and anything that they're interested in, that you share that as well. That'll make them come back to you, and you're providing value to them as well. And E is engagement, of course. Anything from entertaining content to inspiring content, anything that you find that your audience is really interested in, that content is really important to add in. And then adding in an element every week or so of course, promotion. So, we're giving all this value. What are you promoting? Making sure that you add that in, not every single time, but usually once a week, to what you're already planning on. So that kind of helps people realize, there's not like a million things, because you go on social, you see a million things. There's not a million things to post. There's like 4 main categories that you really want to dig into. So that's what I do. That's how I help my clients.
I like that. And having a framework like that, just having something that narrow to focus on, can really be such a help right now, because it's always tricky to know what the heck to post on social media. People struggle with this all the time. It's part of why we have jobs. But so I think that's a really good kind of pathway for people who are maybe too overwhelmed to really think about their social media right now. Just think about care. So connect, authority, resource, engagement.
Yep.
And then it's kind of care-up. Because you got promotion in there too.
That's correct. Add the promotion. Don't forget that part. But, people, I think, they tend to think about that's what they should do all the time. Promote. Like, yeah. So I add that in as like, I know they're already thinking about doing that. So let's just pull it back a little bit, take care, and then, sprinkle in the promotion.
I really like that. So how do we, especially with the connect part, again, I just want to go back to that balance of how, people are kind of being brought down right now, but we want to bring them up, but we also don't want to bring them up as in pretending things aren't going, the way they're going. So what are some ways that you've seen, especially with your coaches and such, that people have been able to strike that balance of being, caring and connecting and inspirational without being either a downer or a Pollyanna? Like, how do you strike that balance?
There's a couple different ways. What I like to do, I have a content calendar, basically like a year-long content calendar that I use as the basis for all the management of the content that I help my clients with.
Such a smart tool, and it can be so simple to create. You can just make a spreadsheet for yourself, and it helps so much with that mental
just be able to visually see it and plan it out and just know that this is what your plan is and not have to worry about it. But I add in like fun holidays, like there's like tomorrow is National Dog Mom's Day, of course Sunday's Mother's Day. There's your day. Tomorrow you get 2 days.
I get a whole weekend. Woohoo!
Exactly. So being able to kind of have, lighten it up and have fun and just kind of bring in those things where it's, you're talking about like every once in a while you're talking about like what's going on now, but then you're talking about like, oh, this is like my life and this is, fun things we can talk about too. So there's always like a balance.
What's the right way to talk about the hard stuff right now?
I think it's just being real. I put a post on Instagram last week that it was like me and my son sitting at the counter, like I'm on my laptop and he's with his worksheet and we're working away. Like this is life. Like this is like a day. And I just kind of reflected upon, like how crazy is this and how different is this than we've ever expected. Like I really had thought, for example, like I wanted to be a homeschool mom before my son went to kindergarten. Not that this is anything like what homeschooling would be in a normal stance, but like, like that's kind of like what my mindset was at, like relating it to. It's just kind of talking through like a thought process of, how, you'll find when you talk through something like that, people are like, oh gosh, yeah, like I know what you mean. Like I'm so glad that you said that because I'm going through the same thing. And, it's just that point of connection. So you're not necessarily saying anything bad. You're just like, this is what it is. And this is how I'm dealing with it. And we'll see what happens kind of thing. So I think that, just a little bit here and there.
I really like that. Just keeping it human because, in our human lives, there's good and there's bad and not pretending like you're untouched by this and things are perfect, but at the same time, not focusing on the horrors.
Right, exactly. Because the more we focus on that, the less we can focus on, we can't go both ways. We got to get ourselves back to that positive for sure. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely
awesome. Are there any more sort of positive messages and things to kind of help us through that you've seen that you're experiencing that are helping you out right now?
I think from a mom perspective, as you can relate, and I'm sure that there's other moms out there watching, is the shift in self-care that we've experienced, where I think that, we've had our own coping mechanisms of like, this is how I take care of myself. And I have this list of things, like if I ever need some time, I need to do these things. And that list is like nothing. So I think being able to, from a mom, just being able to take the time that you need and ask for the time and don't be afraid to, and just have that open communication with your family. I think that is, being able to take care of yourself. You can't take care of anyone else unless you can make sure that you're taken care of. As it looks like, this is going to probably last for a little while longer through the summer at least. And we've got to, just be creative about different ways that we use to like look within to find out what we can do to really help ourselves and help support our families at the same time.
And we have to adjust our expectations, too, because if we keep seeing this as this very temporary thing, it's going to be harder and harder. We need to see it as our new normal. And we
Yeah.
need to say, you know what, how am I going to make this work for me?
Right.
Like, to the point of self-care, one thing I've been doing is, first of all, Sunday night, I've been doing spa night. So I give myself like a facial and a bubble bath, and it's glorious, and it's after the kids are in bed. But today, I'm actually giving myself a business strategy day. I'm like staying up
Oh,
here in
yeah.
my office before this live stream and after this live stream. I'm just staying up here. I don't spend the day in my office. I have to be accessible to my family most days. But I talked to my husband. I said, look, I need this. And he talked to the kids because he's working too. And they finished school early for the day. And he said, look, TV, YouTube, whatever you got, just don't bother me.
Yeah.
He's made his needs clear to them just as I've made my needs clear to him of I need to give this day and this time and this moment and this space and this energy towards something for me right now.
Yeah.
And we will give energy to the kids and family stuff at 5 or 6. We'll have our movie night. It'll be all about them. We'll be but it's about drawing those boundaries just as coaches, to bring that back, just as coaches have to do their boundaries between what they're giving to others and also having something left in, their own cup.
Themselves. Yep.
Yeah, so that's huge.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amy,
Yeah.
for all that you do to help the people who help the people.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Aw,
so
fun.
where can people find you, and why should they?
Definitely. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, so Capitalize Social Media. You'll find me there. And on Instagram, Capitalize Social Media and Amy Airom. To your point, I'd like to share positive things, especially on my Instagram. So I'm always sharing pictures and things that, hope that people can get inspired and be, get that get switched into that positive mindset. Facebook, same thing, more family stuff on my personal page, but definitely on my business page. I interview coaches on my live show, Coaches Go Social. So we get a lot of teaching and learning from their experiences and get their message out there more. So
I love that. When is your show?
It is Tuesdays at 9:30 Pacific time, 9:30 a.m.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Amy. I, of
Thank
course, am
you.
Christine Gritman, as you can see. Wrong way. Whatever. It's there. And I do this show every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, where I interview smart friends about different topics relating to social media, small business, all that jazz. Next week, I'm talking to my friend Jeff Howell, and we're going to be talking about how, connection and sharing your stories and sharing your humanity and your vulnerability, it's so important on social media, but that can be scary at the best of times, and it is especially scary when you're not feeling so good inside yourself. If you're dealing with anxiety or depression or any of that, which I've dealt with, which Jeff has dealt with. So how to get past that hurdle, because your power lies in your ability to connect. Your power lies in your stories and in your whole humanness that you can bring to the table. So we're going to talk about how to work through that to everyone's benefit. So tune in next week for that. Bye.